Welcome back. We are jumping right back into our conversation with the writer and director of the new, highly anticipated and released movie Bull Street. We're sitting down with Lynn Dow, and in a short while, we will bring in Melinda Hale, who is also a starring actress in that film, who did an amazing job. Lynn, before we went to break, we were talking about you shooting in Clarendon County. I believe that it was over 18 days, or about 18 days, that you shot the film in the small town of Somerton, South Carolina. And it was so great to see some of the things that we know. I saw my home church there, Tuckahoe Missionary Baptist Church, where you talked about the Piggly Wiggly, and just seeing the town on the big screen was absolutely amazing. Why was it so important for you to actually come back home and shoot it? I mean, you're in Hollywood. You could have gone somewhere and made that scene, but you came back to your actual roots.
Because that's where my family, the legacy started. That's where my grandmother, my mom, that's where the history started for my family.
Yeah.
That's where we were, one of the things when I was with my grandmother's research and bringing her back home was, and losing the land. And one thing about generational wealth is, it's about legacy and respect for families and their heritage. And that's what I think I was searching for. So to go back and follow those steps, and my grandmother's footsteps, my mom's footsteps, and everybody's footsteps. But also, I spent a lot of summers there. And so I like to say, and I would often get beat up in New York, the hustle and bustle of LA and New York, and I would always come back down to Somerton and be healed up, and my great aunt would fix me back up, and I would go back to the, coming home, that I like to say, is you get to catch up with yourself, you get to breathe, and it's just just a whole different world.
Not only did you have to come back home to really bring this film to life, you also had to pick some great actors and actresses to really make it pop. I want to bring in Melinda Hale, who plays Lou Esther in the movie, that main star. Melinda, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Awareness.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Melinda, you did an outstanding job. I know that you are originally from Cali, but I was like, let me verify, because you embodied the Southern sister to the T, the relationship with the grandmother. It was absolutely amazing. Tell us more about your role as Lou Esther and some of the motivation that you had to pull from in order to really bring that character to life.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, reading the script, it was immediately something that I knew I wanted to be a part of. It was an original story, and I found it interesting because usually when you see disputes about land and home ownership, it's usually a black and white dynamic. But seeing it being a predominantly black cast, I was like, this is an interesting story that I've never seen. So I wanted to be a part of that. And what I was drawn to about Lou Esther's character was really just her sense of family, the love that she had for her grandmother, which Lynn said she saw, when she saw a lot of the work that I had done when I auditioned. And I have such a close relationship with my mom. I didn't really get to know my grandparents growing up, but my mom and I are so close, and she is the most incredible grandmother to my daughter. So being able to just bring a little bit of that to the screen and bring the script to life, I was just really honored to be a part of it.
When people watch your character of Lou Esther, what do you think the message that Lou Esther sends? Because I was like, okay, she's strong, she's not fearful, and that's what I got as a woman growing up in South Carolina. But for anybody watching this movie, what do you think your character sends?
I think strength is really the key word that I would use here. I mean, she didn't give up. And despite having, animosity towards what her family situation was with losing her mom, losing her dad, but having her grandmother, everything she did was for her grandmother. She stayed strong through all of it. And I think that that's really admirable and something that we want to see. We want to see those strong female characters that are fighting for family and fighting for their rights and people to look up to. And I think that she's really one of those characters that you're like, okay, I see you. I see what you're doing. I'm inspired by that.
And Melinda, did you have to be inspired by some of your personal activism? I know that you used to host your podcast, We Need to Talk, where you took deep dives into a number of issues, including social justice and Black Lives Matter. Being that this is a story that highlights some of the troubles and challenges that Black families specifically face, what did you pull from just with your personal care for those topics?
Well, I'm always an activist mode, so it wasn't really difficult to pull from those situations. And knowing a lot of my own personal family history. My dad's from Mississippi, my mom's from Louisiana, and knowing things that they went through growing up and moving to California, it was really easy to just pull from personal experiences and personal stories that I've heard from my own family to be able to make this feel as real as possible.
Melinda and Lynn, when people watch this movie, what is the one unifying message that you hope they walk away from? And Melinda, we'll start with you.
Yeah, of course. Again, I'm going to go back to that family dynamic because I think we don't see too many positive family dynamics anymore. I mean, going back to really, I call it the Black Renaissance, when you saw a lot of Black families in the 90s and early 2000s. I love that this movie is bringing back the dynamic specifically with a granddaughter and a mom, and I love that we're honoring Lynn's story. So I think the family dynamic, the strength, preservation, those are all themes that I think people will take away once they see this film.
Lynn, when you saw Melinda and you knew that you had written this role, why did you think that she was the perfect fit?
Well, I had, with Melinda, I personally, we had a casting director, and I knew exactly what I wanted out of Loretta, because really it was me. It was my story. And so I had gone through a lot. I saw Melinda in one of the trades, and then I started watching her shows, and Melinda's also, she sings. Yeah. And she's really great. And then I just started watching her website and watching some of the other shows that she was on. She was on a few television shows. And then we called her agent. We got in touch with the agent. I had a conversation with her. And I knew just in that moment, that first call right there, we had a Zoom call, and she was so well prepared, and the professionalism there. I was just so amazed, but I knew just her feeling. She had dug so deep, and just, we had a videotape. She had auditioned, she sent her audition tape, and she read the lines for it, and she had come from a place, I was just like, I wonder if she had to have a strong relationship with her grandmother or someone, because I knew I needed someone of power and someone who had that passion and could understand my grief. And Melinda, when I spoke to her, I knew when she came back at her audition tape, she understood that grief.
Picking Loretta Devine, as she played the grandmother, it was great to see you two together, because I felt like I was watching Melinda. Some of the grandmothers and granddaughters relationships around here, the fussing and the back and forth, and it's just like, you can't tell the grandma anything, okay? That was a true Southern Black grandma. I loved it.
I'll tell you, she is Hollywood royalty. She's iconic. And when you look at it, she's probably one of the few Afro-American women at that age, this age here, that we had to, to look for, when I was casting. But one of the things that Loretta, what's impressive, she's very close with Melinda. They're very close without this relationship, and that was really important for us, that they gel and they really, really just went at each other and, and made it work. And it's so believable, that character. She delivered my message. And, I'm just really grateful and blessed by this opportunity, and glad these guys came along with me to bring my grandmother back home. And I tell them that all the time.
We are going to pause right there. We want to thank Melinda for joining us for the interview today. But when we return, we are going to go one-on-one with award-winning actress Loretta Devine. She's going to talk about her role in the Bull Street movie. We'll be right back.